This is Jack in 1982 or so. Uh, they weren't. This wasn't published in the original raw version, but in a later a book that came out 2 years ago, 3 years ago, it was published. And I was experimenting with trying to get a color version of the black and white, uh, and also fooling around with the word balloon by using the part that goes in called the caret for the words instead of the balloon. Um, I don't think that worked too well, but I'm glad I tried it, at least. Uh, this one, I didn't do in black and white. I did a pencil version, but I don't think that's very effective. So the color one is probably the better version of it. And it's another one of those strip or panels about nothing except the event of the wind blowing in and knocking or disrupting the money on his dresser. Not an everyday event, hardly worth painting, but somehow intrigued me. There's about 4 of these that I did. Maybe I did some more. I don't remember. I don't have them. Um, Jack, as you saw before in the black and white version in the earlier episodes, looking at Cole coming into his basement. The colors are arbitrary except for Jack himself. He's always going to be wearing the light blue shirt and brown pants and the brown hat. That's his costume. So that stays constant, whereas everything else can change around him. I like that idea of having an unvarying source or center, and then the other things can be keyed against it. Also painting in a vignette manner with the gray bleeding at the edges. And this is the same one you saw in the earlier episode. I just thought it belonged in this group as well as where it was. Um, it's slightly different, but not much. The coffee did not quite spill out the tragedy of spilling coffee. Uh, Jack's life source and mine. So by the end of this series, I realized it was not going to go anywhere, and I mean, the color approaching it this way is a little bit too graphic for me, even though the Jacks are kind of graphic. So 10 years later, I was asked to do column headings for a magazine, and I went back to it and just painted it normally. This is the unlikely event of a sports event of my cat Flesh and other cats leaping over Jack's head, and it's sort of, I'm not a big sports fan except for baseball, and so it's sort of the equivalent of my relationship to sports itself. It's a lot of fun. I just like the unlikeliness of a cat event. And movies, the difference between movies and television for me is sort of people get up and walk in front of you. I haven't been to a real movie in years, so this is going way back and thinking about it. The thing I did in this series, I think there's about 8 of them. I only have 4 here, that different columns for the same magazine, is I used 2 colors plus gray. In this case, it's yellow, green, and blue. The character on the right is a real character I developed to some degree and then just left it go, called Rotart Suli, which is illustrator backwards, another old-time comic device. Here's Rotart and Jack seeing each other on the other side of a library rack. I like doing the calligraphy again, the designing the lettering for the picture. And that still surprises me that would be so engaging, but it was. I haven't done much of it since. I mean, I think this is probably the last. Well, I did the book, the most recent book. I did some things there. Enclose, the last of the headings here. And now we see Jack unclothed. And there's his hat and pants. I couldn't use brown because I was keeping that theme of 2 colors only plus gray. So I delegated the 2 colors to his underwear and things in his closet and the chair. That was my choice. No one told me to do that. I was free to do what I wanted to. It was a great assignment and challenging, I did them relatively large. I mean, it's acrylic, again, on Bristol board. This was a poster, my first poster I did for the School of Visual Arts, where I've been teaching for 49 years. And this was done in 1986 for the 40th anniversary of the school, which would have been 1987. So the poster was done in 86. And it was the first time I had stopped doing Jack. So this was introduction to my illustration style, my painting style, but I kept Jack in it as a black and white comic book character to show that this is the same person that did Jack. It's oil paint. This is another poster I did in the early 90s for Silas Rhodes, the founder of the school, and he asked me to do it. And I thought of it being him bringing the poster up for me to do. And then there I am in the poster, and he's in the poster. But he didn't like the idea of the founder's portraits. He said he didn't like that idea so much. So I asked him if it'd be okay if I used Jack. And he said, sure. So I did. And afterwards, people thought it was him. And he commented on that. So he asked me if he could have it. So I gave it to him. So I had to repaint it myself because I liked it as well, for the connection to Silas as well as my own father. And this is another poster I did for the 50th anniversary of the School of Visual Arts in 1996 for 97. And it's my mom Um, and it's supposed to represent illustration by virtue of saying there's the real dog looking into the open oven in the background, and here are the reproductions of the dog, like illustrations, the reproduced image, multiplied, and mom is the illustrator, basically. This is also oil on canvas. So I took that image, I'll let you read it first. My mom's name was Esther, so that's why it's Jack and Esther Survive. And I took that original image and expanded into a strip. I wondered if I could do that, combine my father and my mom into, an ongoing new strip, and it didn't quite hold it. I like the image, I like the story here and everything, but it felt a little forced. I don't know. Couldn't follow it through. This is the most recent Jack done as a cover for the book that came out in 2009, and he's much more casual, the painting version of him, at least. Here's the calligraphy again. How do I make an interesting cover? The dropping S was a theme, the last S in Survives, as a theme I use lots of times in the comic strip itself back in the 80s. That's my mourning doves, mine, nature's mourning doves on my fire escape. So in the background, you just heard. I'm assuming you heard it. Now, this is the earliest Jacks in color, done in 1979. So I wanted to contrast. I'll let you read it. Okay. I wanted to contrast the last Jacks with the earliest Jacks in color. So this is why they're together here at this point. The last Jack was just before this. Anyway, the theme is the same. I didn't even have his name then. He was called Middleman. It was obviously my father Jack, but I took a while to name the strip Jack Survives. This is the Cadillac attacking his house. And at the same time, probably maybe before, maybe after, I don't know, but I did this one. And the intention was to be a little more surreal. I wasn't sure. I hadn't decided who Jack was, and I don't know if I ever did, really. I mean, how his character acts and things, but this was a little bit too far out for him. Even though I enjoyed it, it made me laugh, but it's about as far out as I would get. I mean, I've got others like it, and that's Jack.